The morning sun poured across the polished glass walls of one of the tallest corporate buildings in the city, making everything shine with wealth and success. Employees hurried through the front entrance carrying expensive briefcases, luxury coffee cups, and confident smiles. But among them stood one man whose worn shoes, faded blue shirt, and weathered hands made him seem completely out of place. What happened next would leave everyone speechless. The CEO looked at him with open disrespect, assuming he was just another poor stranger who had wandered into the wrong place. Yet only minutes later, the company's legendary chairman stepped outside, ignored every executive waiting to greet him, walked directly toward that humble man and shook his hand first. In that unforgettable moment, every judgment, every laugh, and every careless assumption came crashing down. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness, humility, and second chances can change lives, please like this video. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Share this story with someone who needs hope today. And subscribe to Soulful Tales 2 for more emotional and inspiring stories. The man standing quietly near the entrance was named Adrian Mercer, a 48-year-old father who had spent most of his life building things with his own hands. His clothes were simple because he believed money should be spent on his family rather than appearances. Years earlier, he had owned a successful engineering workshop that employed dozens of skilled workers. His reputation was built on honesty, and many young apprentices had learned their trade under his guidance. But life had changed suddenly, after a devastating factory fire destroyed everything he had built. Insurance disputes, mounting debts, and months of legal battles forced Adrian to sell nearly everything he owned. Instead of becoming bitter, he accepted whatever work he could find, fixing machines, repairing equipment, and helping small businesses survive. His daughter was studying at a university because he had refused to let financial hardship destroy her dreams. Every sacrifice he made was for her future. That morning, Adrian carried a plain leather folder that contained years of research, technical drawings, and a proposal that could dramatically reduce manufacturing waste. He had been invited weeks earlier through an old professional contact who believed the company might benefit from his innovative design. The invitation had come directly from someone in the chairman's office. Though Adrian had no interest in mentioning that fact to anyone, he believed respect should never have to be demanded. If people judged him by his appearance, that would reveal more about them than about him. Inside the impressive lobby, everything reflected luxury. Marble floors gleamed beneath sparkling lights. Elegant artwork decorated the walls. Employees walked with purpose, barely noticing the quiet man waiting patiently near the reception desk. Some looked at his worn clothing before quickly looking away. Others whispered to one another, assuming he was lost or seeking charity. Adrian remained calm, holding his folder close while watching the sunlight brighten the entrance through the enormous glass doors. At nearly the same moment, a line of expensive black vehicles arrived outside the building. Out stepped Victor Halden, the company's ambitious CEO. Victor was respected for increasing profits and expanding the business internationally, but many employees quietly feared his obsession with appearances. He believed success should always look expensive, polished, and impressive. As he entered the lobby surrounded by senior executives, his eyes immediately settled on Adrian. Victor slowed his pace, clearly annoyed by the sight of someone who did not match the elegant environment surrounding him. Without taking time to understand the situation, he assumed Adrian had wandered in without permission. Security personnel noticed Victor's expression and moved closer, expecting instructions. The atmosphere grew, uncomfortable as nearby employees stopped, pretending not to watch. Victor approached with visible impatience, speaking loudly enough for others nearby to hear. He questioned why someone dressed like Adrian was standing in the executive lobby and suggested that important meetings were reserved for serious professionals. Several executives exchanged awkward smiles while others quietly laughed, believing they were witnessing another example of the CEO protecting the company's prestigious image. Adrian listened respectfully, never raising his voice or showing anger. He simply explained that he had been invited for a scheduled meeting and was willing to wait, as long as necessary. His calmness somehow irritated Victor even more. To him, confidence without visible wealth seemed almost offensive. He instructed security to verify. Adrian's identity while making dismissive remarks about people trying to gain access to successful companies through false claims. Adrian neither defended himself nor argued. Years of hardship had taught him that dignity often speaks louder than pride. As security checked their records, a surprising delay occurred. The receptionist searched repeatedly before explaining that the appointment details had not yet appeared in the morning schedule. Victor interpreted the confusion as proof that Adrian's story was false. Some employees looked embarrassed for the quiet visitor, while others secretly enjoyed the uncomfortable scene. Adrian simply stepped aside, allowing everyone else to continue entering the building. He had learned long ago that patience often reveals the truth more effectively than confrontation. Only a few minutes later, something completely unexpected happened. The enormous elevator leading directly from the executive floor opened. Every conversation inside the lobby stopped immediately. Walking out alone was the company's 82-year-old chairman, Theodore Ashcroft, a legendary businessman who rarely appeared without advance notice. Employees straightened their posture. Executives hurried forward, expecting a formal greeting. Victor himself smiled confidently, preparing to welcome the chairman with respect. Instead, Theodore walked past every executive without slowing down. His eyes were fixed on only one person. He continued directly toward Adrian. Before anyone could understand what was happening, the elderly chairman extended both hands warmly, smiling with genuine happiness. He shook Adrian's hand firmly, placing his other hand gently on Adrian's shoulder with unmistakable affection and respect. The entire lobby fell into stunned silence. Even the security guards stood frozen. Theodore's face reflected sincere gratitude rather than corporate politeness. Years earlier, long before anyone inside the company knew his name, Theodore had been involved in a terrible highway accident during a severe storm. His vehicle had overturned in a remote area where few people traveled. Adrian, then operating his engineering workshop nearby, had witnessed the accident while returning home from work. Without hesitation, he risked his own safety, climbed through broken glass, and helped rescue Theodore before emergency services arrived. Adrian had never asked for recognition, publicity, or financial reward. Once Theodore recovered, Adrian quietly returned to his ordinary life, believing helping another human being required no repayment. The chairman never forgot. During the years that followed, Theodore secretly followed Adrian's career from a distance, admiring how he built his business honestly and treated employees with fairness. When he later learned about the devastating factory fire and Adrian's financial struggles, he respected him even more because Adrian refused to abandon his workers or complain about his misfortune. Instead, Adrian continued helping others while rebuilding his own life piece by piece. The chairman had recently received Adrian's proposal through an old engineering colleague. After personally reviewing the documents, he realized the design represented one of the most practical manufacturing innovations he had seen in decades. Rather than scheduling an ordinary meeting, Theodore intentionally invited Adrian himself because he believed brilliant ideas deserved personal attention, regardless of appearance. Standing before everyone in the lobby, Theodore proudly introduced Adrian as a man whose character had once saved his life and whose integrity had remained stronger than success or failure. The chairman explained that companies often invest millions searching for talented people while overlooking the value of honesty, humility, and resilience. He admitted that many organizations measured potential by expensive clothing, luxury cars, or polished presentations, instead of courage and wisdom, earned through life's greatest hardships. Victor's confidence disappeared almost instantly. The realization of what had happened spread across the faces of every employee watching. The CEO had publicly humiliated the very guest whom the chairman considered an honored friend. Embarrassment filled the room more heavily than silence ever could. Some executives lowered their eyes, remembering their own quiet laughter only moments earlier. Theodore then invited Adrian to accompany him upstairs personally, refusing to allow anyone else to lead the way. As they entered the executive elevator together, employees watched with a mixture of shock and admiration. No expensive suit could have earned greater respect than Adrian had received simply through a lifetime of kindness. During their meeting, Adrian presented his manufacturing system with remarkable clarity. Instead of complicated technical language meant to impress, he explained practical solutions that would reduce waste, lower production costs, improve workplace safety, and protect the environment simultaneously. Years of hands-on experience allowed him to understand problems that many highly paid consultants had never encountered. Every recommendation came from real situations, real failures, and real lessons learned through honest work. The chairman listened carefully while senior engineers reviewed Adrian's calculations. Within hours, they confirmed that his design could save the company millions annually while improving efficiency across multiple factories. More importantly, the system could be adapted by smaller manufacturers, helping countless local businesses remain competitive. Theodore immediately approved a partnership that recognized Adrian not merely as a consultant, but as the lead developer of the entire project. News of the agreement spread rapidly throughout the company. Employees who had witnessed the morning's events began discussing something far more important than financial success. They spoke about humility, respect, and the danger of judging strangers by appearances. Many admitted privately that they had almost made the same assumptions as the CEO. Adrian's story became an unforgettable lesson shared during employee training for years afterward. Victor requested a private meeting with Adrian before the day ended. There was no audience, no publicity, and no attempt to protect his reputation. He acknowledged that his judgment had been based entirely on appearances and admitted that leadership without humility eventually becomes arrogance. Adrian accepted the apology without bitterness because carrying resentment would only have burdened his own heart. Forgiveness, he believed, was another form of strength. Months later, Adrian's innovations transformed production across the company. Savings were invested into employee education programs, scholarships for young engineers, and community apprenticeship, opportunities for people who had lost jobs or faced financial hardship. Adrian insisted that every success should create opportunities for others, rather than simply increasing profits. His daughter proudly graduated from university, inspired by her father's unwavering dignity during life's hardest seasons. The company itself also changed. New hiring practices emphasized skills, integrity, and character above appearances. Reception staff received additional training to welcome every visitor respectfully. Security personnel were encouraged to treat every individual with professionalism, regardless of clothing or social status. The chairman often reminded executives that the future sometimes arrives wearing worn shoes instead of polished ones. Years later, employees still remembered that bright morning when the richest people in the building stood waiting for recognition, while the chairman walked past all of them to honor the poorest-looking man in the lobby. It became more than a corporate story. It became a reminder that true greatness is revealed, not by what someone wears, but by how they have lived when nobody was watching. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to Soulful Tales too, so more people can discover stories that remind us why kindness still matters in today's world. Special request: comment below with the words "character matters" if you believe a person's heart is always more valuable than their appearance. As Adrian walked out of the company headquarters that evening, the same sunlight that had greeted him in the morning now stretched gently across the city streets. His clothes had not changed. His shoes were still worn. His hand still carried the marks of years of honest work. Yet everyone who watched him leave now understood something they had failed to see before. Wealth can open doors, power can command attention, and appearance can create first impressions. But only character earns lasting respect. On that ordinary daytime morning, one quiet father reminded an entire company, and perhaps all of us, that the greatest title anyone can ever hold is simply being a good human being.